Is Bitcoin the first major step towards the separation between money and state? Is this fight against governments or against the banks? Who is gonna be the first one to really embrace crypto nationwide? Which president will take the first step to say, we accept Bitcoin? El Salvador is a beautiful country whose history has been full of tragedy and exploitation. And yet, Salvadorians are resilient in maintaining hope. It is the smallest country in continental America. In February 2019, Nayib Bukele, a millennium who is not aligned with either the major political parties, who has dominated the country since the Civil War, was elected president of El Salvador.
Excited? You nervous?
Excited.
Is that your speech?
Yeah, that's my speech, and this is the speech expert.
Oh, okay, your speechwriter. Cool. Right on.
Well, we're gonna review like 5 minutes or something.
Cool.
Dos, tres.
Ustedes pidieron este cambio con fuerza, con cada familia votando, en cada calle, con cada voto. Ustedes gritaron el cambio que hoy comienza.
El Salvador, como lo conocemos, es un país que ha sufrido mucho. Es un país que nos ha tocado reconstruirlo. Es un país que ha enfrentado terremotos. Es un país que ha enfrentado gobiernos corruptos.
According to a report by the International Crisis Group 2020, the homicide rates and murders in El Salvador dropped 60% since the president Nayib Bukele took over office. The new party, founded by President Nayib Bukele, Nuevas Ideas or New Ideas, won 2/3 of the votes with his new allies. His party won supermajority 56 seats in an 84 seats parliament, and the supermajority enables President Bukele to appoint judges and pass laws.
Lo mismo pasa con la corrupción. Cuando llegan al gobierno, roban porque así lo han hecho siempre. Ven la corrupción como algo normal. Son los mismos de siempre y su vieja forma de hacer política. Porque el dinero alcanza cuando nadie roba.
Necesito que todos me entreguen su renuncia. Eso es una renuncia que yo voy a guardar en mi despacho como una manera de que todos sepan de que sus cargos están a disposición y de que deberán de cumplir con el pueblo salvadoreño si quieren conservarlos.
With slick back hair and a name people can barely pronounce, Presidente Nayib Bukele is 100% connected with social media, technology, and cryptocurrencies, was enough to turn him into a rock star overnight with the new millennium generation. He even earned a spot in Time magazine list of 100 most influential people in 2021. But as he liked to call himself, he's just a CEO of El Salvador. You know, just another Bitcoin event, this time in Miami. It's really hot and we love Bitcoin events. Always a really long line. And this one, let me tell you, man, this line is freaking long. 2.5 hours waiting. It's really hot. Everybody's melting. The internet sucks. There are people coming from everywhere. Everything's slow. There's no food. There's not enough bathrooms outside. There's not enough bathrooms inside. And yet, people can't stop talking about Bitcoin. Let me tell you, this shit is crazy. But as a good old Bitcoiner, we do all this because we know events are always important to connect, get to know what's happening, and of course, those secret announcements.
Yo, you guys ready for this? Rhetorical question, there's no fucking way. There's no way, I promise you. One small step for Bitcoin, one giant leap for mankind, I promise. I promise. El Salvador is a great example. And so then I got a message on behalf of the president of the country. And he wanted to talk. And I called my dad. It's gonna piss my pants.
My name is Rodrix Digital, and I'm president of El Salvador. Great ideas are beautiful and have great power. But like most beautiful things, they can also be more fragile than we think. When I was a kid, we thought about the future and we were delighted by its possibilities. We couldn't wait for it to happen and be part of its creation. But now, ask almost anyone what they think about the future and they will say something along the lines of nuclear war, climate catastrophe, hunger, pestilence, the death of life. We didn't take care of the beautiful idea that we create our own future, that we as humanity can do almost anything that we imagine. Our ingenuity, what separates us from other species. In El Salvador, we are trying to rescue this idea and start the design of a country for the future, using the best ingredients that makes us who we are, while using sensibility to find the best examples of ideas from history and around the world. I believe Bitcoin could be one of these ideas. That is why next week, I will send to Congress a bill that will make Bitcoin a legal tender in El Salvador. In the short term, this will generate jobs and help provide financial inclusion to thousands outside the formal economy. And in the medium and long term, we hope that this small decision can help us push humanity at least a tiny bit into the right direction. I enter politics to leave a legacy for my country. By while doing it, and by working with like-minded people, maybe we can help create a legacy for the world.
I was there when this happened. And at this point, nobody was expecting Bitcoin to be raised to a presidential level conversation overnight. And after that, this took place.
The first one who actually began this conversation was our president, Nayib Bukele. He was the one with the idea of actually making Bitcoin a legal currency here in El Salvador. So we had this discussion, and he took actually the draft of the law on June 8th, I believe, to the Congress.
I will send to Congress a bill that will make Bitcoin a legal tender in El Salvador. In the short term, this will generate jobs and help provide financial inclusion to thousands outside the formal economy.
So we discussed it in the Finances Commission with our president, Dania, which actually you interviewed before. And we had all this discussion, article by article, so we can actually make it happen. So you can build a simple but efficient law. Because we know Bitcoin is actually very complicated if you want to see it that way. Once you understand the whole process, how it works, the Lightning Network and all the protocols that actually run Bitcoin, you get it that it's actually very simple. And that was actually the top goal, to deliver a law that was simple but easy to carry on. And that's what we did. On June 8th, we actually voted to make the first law in the world that made Bitcoin a legal tender in a country, in any country in the world. 3 months later, it actually began working, the law. So everyone had to implement in their businesses or, as a personal thing.
Un mapa. Y este mapa al que hizo alusión el presidente Nayib Bukele y dijo que el mundo puede parecer oscuro. Pero sé que muchos no van a poder ver, pero a lo lejos hay una chispita color naranja que representa la esperanza. Y esa es la esperanza que nosotros necesitamos para iniciar a hacer un incendio. Y nosotros nos queremos referir a que ahora con la ley de Bitcoin, esta moneda digital mundial sin fronteras, por cierto, lo que va a venir a reducir esa intermediación que existía para los hermanos salvadoreños en el exterior al momento de enviar remesas. Va a ser un proceso rápido y seguro. Muchos diputados de la esquina han querido desinformar a la población y decir que cualquier comercio iba a tener que recibir de manera obligatoria el Bitcoin. Déjenme decirles que dentro de la ley establece el artículo número 8 y 14 sobre la convertibilidad automática que esto tiene, donde el Estado es responsable y que significa que todas las transacciones al momento del comercio, que esta llegue al comercio, ellos van a poder decidir si quieren esa transacción aceptarla, ya sea en Bitcoin o hacer la conversión a dólares. Esa es nada más una aclaración. Y quiero decirles que, si bien es cierto, existe una brecha digital en estos momentos en nuestro país y el 70% de la población está excluida del sistema financiero, y esa ha sido una herencia que nos dejaron los gobiernos que representan los diputados de la esquina, y esa brecha digital este gobierno ha tratado de reducirla. ¿Cómo? Entregando computadoras con acceso a internet dentro de las comunidades al interior de nuestro país, capacitando a diferentes maestros. Y yo estoy segura, completamente segura, que nosotros esta noche vamos a votar a favor y vamos a ser el primer país en todo el mundo en aprobar la legalización del Bitcoin como curso legal.
So from June to September, we had to actually build the whole protocols that we're going to actually make Bitcoin work in our country. We had to build a wallet, a functional and actually working wallet, all the protocols regarding the government and how we're actually going to implement it. And 3 months later, it was a whole success. Like, I can show you actually what our wallet looks like.
Desde el 7 de septiembre podrás descargar Chivo Wallet, la aplicación gratuita del gobierno para pagar o recibir dinero en Bitcoin o dólares. Si quieres, puedes usarla. Y si no quieres, no hay ningún problema. Al crear tu cuenta en la aplicación, recibirás $30 equivalentes en Bitcoin para consumo. Si no quieres instalar la aplicación, no pasa nada. También podrás enviar o recibir remesas instantáneamente las 24 horas del día, desde cualquier parte del mundo y sin pagar comisión. Pero si prefieres ir a hacer cola y pagar comisión a las mismas empresas remesadoras de siempre, puedes seguirlo haciendo. Podrás usar tu dinero pagando directamente desde la aplicación o retirarlo en efectivo en cualquiera de los 200 cajeros Chivo, a cualquier hora y sin pagar comisiones. También habrá 50 puntos Chivo para retirar o depositar dinero. Ahí podrás recibir asesoría sobre cómo usar la aplicación, cómo funciona el Bitcoin y cómo enviar o recibir dinero. Todo sin pagar comisiones. Si quieres usar la billetera digital Chivo, no necesitas portar efectivo. Y si no quieres, puedes seguir pagando con billetes y monedas. La Chivo Wallet nunca consume tu plan de datos. De hecho, se puede usar cuando tu celular no tiene saldo. La Chivo Wallet todavía no está disponible. Lo estará desde el 7 de septiembre de manera gratuita en las tiendas de aplicaciones de Apple, Android y Huawei. Recuerda que puedes estar pendiente de los beneficios que trae la ley Bitcoin y la Chivo Wallet o no, porque usar Bitcoin y usar Chivo es opcional. Gobierno de El Salvador.
First of all, what is quite important that we actually achieved with the Bitcoin and the Chivo wallet and all the process is that we actually put El Salvador in the map, right? El Salvador was known before because of violence and gangs, and that's not El Salvador at all. So we wanted to do something actually that placed us in a map in things we believe that show the whole opportunities our country can offer to people and do something that was meaningful to the whole world. It was not easy. We had to fight against the opposition here. People who actually took it to the political side, because that's another thing. It's not easy to fight political, in a political way, but we knew it had nothing to do with politics. It was just opening the world to a new opportunity that's gonna be growing. And that was the most difficult part, to teach people that it has nothing to do with politics. It has only to do with a new way of managing money in the world, decentralize it, free, open for everyone. And that's the best part of it, that we actually achieved something that is gonna be a legacy for the whole world. First of all, think about all the remittances that you can actually bring to your country. El Salvador, we have 3 million people living outside our country, and we wanna help them send their remittances with no taxes, with no, how do you say this? Fees at all. So in the very first month, Salvadorans living in the United States, they sent $32 million up through the Chivo wallet, which is our wallet, with no fees at all. 3 million people in the very first month downloaded the app. which means it's the double of people actually holding a bank account in our country. And that's just amazing. The way you actually open everyone to this opportunity. It's just simply outstanding. And it's gonna improve people's lives. Because people, most of them, they didn't have access to a bank account. But right now they have it on their phone. And they can actually sell, buy, and they can be part of this whole economy. And that's the message I can actually send you. El Salvador is actually having a great time. We're growing at 10% in our economy, which is amazing. And it's just gonna get better. Tourism, you wanna buy a house, a hotel, you wanna invest in your own apartment, house, whatever you want, at the beach, anywhere you want. We have a whole package of laws that will actually give you all the opportunities, tax breaks, Bitcoin. We have the best of the world. So it's a whole opportunity for you guys who actually want to invest in El Salvador. Come and see us. Let us change your mind. Let us breathe El Salvador into your life and let you know that there's plenty of opportunities here. And we're ready for them.
The amazing part was, after the whole plan was set, the technology was built, just like me or any other YouTuber, the president went on national television and was teaching everybody how to download a wallet, make a backup, do the first transaction, and how to send and receive Bitcoin. This was unthinkable a couple months ago. Implementing a new idea nationwide, it is very difficult, even for a small country. Of course, the opposition was present to make this as hard as possible. But check it out Mark Falzon's clip. He was present during the protest, and he saw there was just a small minority who was trying to make things look really bad.
At first, everything was calm. But then something happened. See, a group of journalists were formed around the Chivo ATM. Most of the Chivo ATMs in the country had armed guards outside of it, just like the ones who made the Vice news reporter delete the photos of the Chivo ATM he took. In this case, the guards were there, but standing far away watching. These journalists were surrounding the Chivo ATM and a small group of 3 to 5 individuals. As I approached, I noticed one of the individuals took a ottoman that was on fire and put it inside of the Chivo ATM building to burn it down. No violence! No violence! At that moment, I thought it was over. That same individual I saw put it in after I walked away came back and did it again. This caused a fire that got international media attention. While I was taking it out, people were yelling, "Burn him," referring to me. And I've had people ask me since then if I was scared in that moment. The answer is no, because it was only 3 to 5 random rogue people in a sea of protesters 10 to 20,000 of them who all recognized me. And knew me from Twitter or television or the newspaper.
Influencer we need, dude. Thank you so much for
I'm pointing this out to clarify that these individuals acted separately from the protesters. One of Bukele's own staff members tweeted the video saying that a foreigner stood up to the protesters.
The thing is, with protests, you can never control what individuals do.
One rogue, violent individual does not stand for all of the protesters, nor does me removing the burning couch from the building stand for me making a political statement. But I recognize that no matter what I do, it can be construed by anyone to mean whatever they want it to mean. So that's when I started to escape. I got to the hotel and packed up everything I had. I had no ticket. We rushed to the airport. We got there and booked the first ticket that was to Los Angeles. Our heart was pounding as we were racing to the airplane, not knowing at any moment what could happen. With our ticket in hand, we rushed to the airplane and
Sure, of course. I'd love that. Very nice meeting you. Yeah, take care, man. Take care. Thank you so much. Man, everyone's recognizing me.
Latin America has been suffering with inflation and hyperinflation for the past 30-40 years. From Brazil to Argentina to Venezuela and many other countries. The Bitcoin talk, the Bitcoin conversation, it started a while back, but events like La Bitconf has been extremely important to educate people everywhere in Latin America.
I've been actually to all the Bitconfs since 2013, every single one, and it is a crucial event in Bitcoin history. What I just found out that the founder of Bitcoin Beach, Jorge Valenzuela, who founded Bitcoin Beach, he was at La Bitconf 2 years ago in Montevideo, and there he got infected by the Bitcoin virus. So in a way, the whole El Salvador thing, because it only happened because of Bitcoin Beach. Yeah, then the president knew about it, and then it blamed the whole country. But without La Bitconf, Bitcoin Beach wouldn't have happened, El Salvador wouldn't have happened. So La Bitconf is the main driver behind all this.
Actually, it was in 2013 because Argentina was seen in the crypto world like an opportunity for Bitcoin. Yes, we had capital constraints and corralito. We couldn't take money out of the banks. So community thought that it would be a good idea to come down. And we did the very first one in Latin America with the highest top speakers at that time because they were willing to know Argentina. And that kept the bar high to do always a bigger, better event. Then we went to Brazil.
Bienvenidos a la capital del Bitcoin. Welcome to the capital of the economic freedom. I think that the status quo is not ready for this change, for the cryptocurrencies. And being the first country to implement a law, a Bitcoin law, that aims economic freedom is not easy. It's not easy because the traditional banking network it's against this revolution. So on behalf of the government of President Bukele, I can say that it's not easy, but we have something. We have the vision, and we know this is the best for our people. That's why we're working on this, and President Bukele is very enthusiastic to change their lives.
We hear the call of El Salvador. We hear the call of the volcanoes. We hear the call of the surf. We're here because we're Bitcoiners, and this is the beginning of a massive Bitcoin, a new chapter in the big Bitcoin revolution.
Bukele has given the gift through Bitcoin to the people of individual sovereignty, and that is, we haven't seen that since the founding of the United States.
I think they don't understand this revolution. And that's the problem with the traditional political people, that they want to keep doing the same and they pretend to have different results. And they are watching us. And that's why it's so important that our system with this implementation of the Bitcoin law can be successful. And all the experts are here in El Salvador, all the community, all the Bitcoiners. And they are the ones that they can speak out loud, not only in El Salvador, to the world, of the need of this economic freedom. So it's not easy because questions are very hard sometimes to answer. And it's not easy because I know there's a status quo that is against this revolution.
Claro que sí. Bitcoin ha venido a darle un giro totalmente diferente a la economía. Nuestro presidente Nayib Bukele, pionero en Centroamérica y en Latinoamérica de esta tecnología y esta economía, pues nos ha enseñado que podemos estar más comunicados, más conectados y poder hacer mejores negocios, como lo explicaban los ponentes. Las barreras se están cayendo y por supuesto que Bitcoin puede unir a todo el mundo y especialmente a estos pueblos latinoamericanos que tenemos muchos problemas sociales parecidos. Bitcoin es la solución para que las economías después de esta pandemia puedan arrancar, puedan despegar, y así como El Salvador, que está probando soluciones y está diciéndole al mundo, unámonos, probemos, Bitcoin definitivamente puede cambiar las economías locales.
I think Bitcoin kind of obsoletes the IMF or WEF. They're not really needed anymore. And Bitcoin provides a better solution than they could ever have offered, right? Their kind of modus operandi is that they come in and they meddle with the country affairs, and they try to change things for their own benefit or to the benefit of another country even, right? But with Bitcoin, you don't really need them. You could potentially raise capital using Bitcoin, right? And I think the first step was to do the legal tender and then getting more people to be aware of Bitcoin and increase, Bitcoin's popular awareness in the country. And then you can go on to do bigger things.
I'm excited about the fact of the president moving and being so maximalist also around Bitcoin, no? Because somehow I've been working trying to get people from the grassroots, yes, into Bitcoin, and this helps everyone at a time to be in contact with it. So I can't be against that when I've been fighting for Bitcoin adoption during the last 10 years. So I think it's a good thing, and thinking otherwise because Bitcoin it's free and not imposed by government, it's just not understanding that the objective is not how we do it, but what we're doing. And I think what we're doing is helping people to go into the best kind of asset in the world, so I'm okay.
Well, they had to go out of the box. We cannot be traditional anymore. Right now, with the economic impact because of the COVID, El Salvador has a different system with the implementation of the Bitcoin law. So I know they're watching us, and our success is going to be their road, their way to do the things. That's why we're putting all of our effort that this can work through our Chivo wallet that's given the Salvadorian people around the world a different way to send remittances. Right now, they have to pay like $10 per each transaction. With the Chivo wallet, they're sending money and they don't have to pay. This is a very important economic revolution for them because around $400 and $700 million are going to be in the pocket of the Salvadorian families, abroad or in El Salvador.
It's very ambitious, and it was on a very stretched timeline to be done. Right? And I don't think anyone else would have right now the courage or the bravery to do it so fast. And despite the short time, the implementation, maybe it hasn't been perfect, but it has been great doing all this network that you don't see anywhere. You have ATMs, now you have all these events, you have La Bitcoin, you have Bitcoin Week, you have investors coming from all over the world, you have entrepreneurs, you have events, so this is gonna take off and make you, this is like the best place and the best moment to be if you're in the Bitcoin space, and the example of this country should be done by our countries very soon.
It's a little bit against the principle, of course, yeah, because Bitcoin should be voluntary. It should not be that your president tells you to accept it. It should be voluntary, that people accept it because they want to. So the whole idea is to get the government out of the monetary system. So there's a little paradox we see here, but then on the other hand, of course I'm appreciating it. Of course it's a great step forward for El Salvador, for the Bitcoin community, and hopefully many other countries will follow. But even more important is that more people will follow without the government telling them what to do. I think that's the real power of Bitcoin, the power of voluntarism.
Well, I have to start that saying thank you very much, Mr. President. What you did was amazing. I have to say you have balls, and it's amazing what he did. And I think being the first one, a lot of countries, they're going to follow what he's doing. They're going to try to do. And remember, the first guy always going to face the challenge, will face the problems, but that's the guy that we're going to lead the world. So look at that, a small country in Central America that some places in the world they never heard about are leading the most intelligent technology. For that will change the financial world, that will change the way people actually use money, the way people vote, the way people do registration. And this small country that most of the world never heard about are leading this. So I think he must be proud. I'm proud. I'm proud because he did it. It's amazing what he did.
Claro que sí. Es muy importante. Como salvadoreña me siento muy orgullosa que Nayib Bukele haya implementado este tipo de economías en nuestro país, ya que es la oportunidad que El Salvador necesitaba para salir a flote. Las economías del mundo están quebrando. Después de la pandemia hemos visto dificultades en todos los ámbitos sociales, económicos, de salud, pero el presidente Nayib Bukele se ha posicionado y en Centroamérica y en Latinoamérica se está convirtiendo en un referente, no solo en el tema político, sino también económico, social, tecnológico. Y Bitcoin es ahora el boom.
All right, if you know our president, he's always there. He wants to be the first one in everything, like in good things. So he's always trying to lead the way. So he was the one who introduced the law. He's the one who actually speaks to the public about the law, all the benefits. He explained himself to the whole country in TV, Open TV, about how to use the Chivo wallet. He's doing it like personally. He took it personally to actually deliver a real project that was working perfectly. Right now, I believe our president, he's doing the best he can to make it work.
I think it is happening. It absolutely is happening. I think this is also a really good show of what happens when you finally have more options politically. Right? The fact that this is a third-party president, it's not like the left, it's not the right, it's someone who's thinking differently and trying to disrupt the establishment. And that is both at the heart of Bitcoin and also at the heart of how you enact change. And that's why these efforts are so aligned. That's what I'm really excited about. So you do see the change. I don't think it is what people expect. It's like, oh my God, everyone is taking Bitcoin and using Bitcoin. It's a more gradual transition, right? It's not as easy as you think. You can't just snap a finger and suddenly the entire economy is running on Bitcoin. And in our experience, we've been able to use Bitcoin. Everyone has heard about it from all the restaurants and little bars that we'll go to. Say, hey, can we pay in Bitcoin? No one goes, what is that? right? Or no one goes, oh, absolutely not. Like, what are you thinking? That's funny. Okay, well, maybe we'll consider taking it in the future. They're all, yeah, we've done it before, but they don't have the muscle memory to say, okay, well, where's the machine that I need to do and what's the process to take it? So over time, as that gets exercised, just like any muscle you need to exercise, it just becomes a bit more de facto, it becomes a bit more standard, and more people will own Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, because people are accepting it. So I do believe it is happening. It's slower than people think as far as what you see in the media, but it's definitely a positive trend. It's a small country, and things have to start small. A lot of the grassroots efforts have to start small, but it is still an established and recognized country in the world. So it's paving the way for other countries to really adopt Bitcoin. And so, yeah, definitely happy for what I'm seeing here.
I think it's amazing to see a country that evolved in the crypto thing, yeah.
I think in a decade from now, El Salvador will be far ahead of the rest of the world due to their early adoption of Bitcoin. And if you are to invest in one place, I would say invest Bitcoin in El Salvador.
And I can't wait to see the next country that is going to adopt Bitcoin, because this is the future and this is history in the making. And I'm super excited to be here.
We are blessed to be in El Salvador. Salvation for the world, okay? When you talk about being the base for money, for Bitcoin, we have the first base, and we give thanks, and we're so happy to be here. Yes, in this moment.
I think Bitcoin in El Salvador is a great thing. I think it's going to help a lot of people elevate themselves. I think it's going to help elevate the community. I think it's going to bring a lot of value to El Salvador. It's bringing a lot of attention, good positive attention. I think it's very, very positive.
It's really good for helping the people and transact with the street vendors and just learning how to use it, and it will do a lot of good for this country to get everybody banked and able to make money with Bitcoin.
It's really, really an amazing. It's the best event of crypto that I ever had been part. So that's really amazing. Really good event, really good opportunities, and that's it.
If you don't have the vision, if you don't have the will to change people's lives, you cannot do it. You have to do it because you believe in this project, and I believe in this project, and I believe what President Bukele is doing for our people in El Salvador.
Bueno, más allá de un reto, en realidad representa una oportunidad para poder darle a conocer a personas de diferentes comunidades cuando no han tenido acceso a tecnología o a educación financiera, poder llevar esos servicios y acercarlos hasta la comunidad. Para nosotros ha representado una oportunidad, y creo que el gobierno del presidente Nayib Bukele ya está tomando cartas en el asunto, y de hecho la ley Bitcoin que nosotros aprobamos trae estos considerando para poder incluir financieramente a ese 70% de la población que en el pasado nunca estuvo incluida.
Desde mi punto de vista es la parte educativa, es la parte cultural, porque obviamente hay mucha gente que tiene los teléfonos pero lo ha ocupado solamente en redes sociales, pero obviamente hacer las transacciones en teléfono, creo que la parte cultural y educativa es la parte más difícil para que la gente se vaya adaptando a la nueva modalidad. Así como cuando la gente ocupaba efectivo y tenía cheques y empezó a ocupar la tarjeta de crédito. Es lo mismo, estamos viendo, o cuando pasamos de colones a dólares, ¿verdad? Que la gente estaba viendo todo ese tipo de transacciones. Yo siento de que la tecnología ha sido bastante bien aceptada, pero obviamente hay que educar mucho a la población y se requerirá unos cuantos meses, ¿verdad? Ya que fue algo bien disruptivo haber entrado con todo El Salvador, ¿verdad? No fue una prueba focalizada en un grupo de personas, no, que fue realmente totalmente disruptivo. Es bien difícil creer que un país va a entrar de un día para otro en coexistir con una moneda virtual. No todo el tiempo sucede eso, ¿verdad? No todo el tiempo sucede eso, y lo que se requiere es educación.
For me, this is very, very, very important.
because I saw two kinds of people in the hackathon. One of them are the beginners, and the beginners can learn a lot.
I make sort of DIY, free and open source hardware projects using cheap hardware. So like a Bitcoin point of sale, which you can use in a bar or a cafe. And it's all things you can build yourself with off-the-shelf hardware. I also do like Bitcoin hardware wallets, those sorts of things. And all the best things I've come up with and made has been through real world use, like a device being out in the world. So there used to be this bar in Berlin called Room 77, which is a very famous Bitcoin bar. Sadly, it shut down last year. But one of my devices was there in the bar being used, and like the guy who ran the bar, he wanted the ability to be able to like download a CSV so he could bring it into QuickBooks, and that would be some useful functionality just so he could like organize his accounts. And that ended up like resulting in me building another piece of software. So what I'm trying to say is, having a whole country supporting Bitcoin and all these businesses and big names as well, like McDonald's and Starbucks. And okay, I'm going to order a coffee at McDonald's using Lightning. So go, scan it. I want to pay it. Yes, please. Come on, Lightning, you can do it. Probably finding a route to the, oh wow, look.
Yeah.
Done.
We got it.
Process, oh, there we are, the payment went through.
Yeah.
Wow. Nice.
Nice.
So I made a digital payment without having to give any details about me. So when you make digital payments, those digital, in a legacy financial network, your information is tracked. And because of all the stuff which has happened with COVID and a lot of countries moving away from physical cash, but us all using digital payments more and more, it's very important we have a privacy-centric digital payments framework which people can use. And it's even more important that that thing be free and open source, and anyone can develop on it. It's permissionless. They can build services, they can build hardware, and there's a free and open source community around that as well. So having, and say if you make a purchase online, having that experience of being able to make a purchase without having to give all your personal details, which could be tracked and logged, and at some point you could be persecuted. In a dystopian future, people who went to McDonald's might be seen as the world's greatest enemy. I might be tracked down and hunted down and put in some gulag. That's an extreme example, but you kind of get my point. Well, that won't happen if you're making that digital payment using something which is privacy-centric.
Bueno, las personas están muy contentas. Se logró a un mes aproximadamente de la implementación y de la vigencia de la ley Bitcoin que más de 3 millones de salvadoreños pudieran tener esta billetera digital que es la Chivo Wallet. Ahora, gracias a esa billetera digital, los salvadoreños pudieron tener un incentivo de $30 para poder hacer transacciones e incentivar la economía y transacciones en Bitcoin. La verdad es que esa cantidad de personas son aún más de los clientes que ya tiene la banca tradicional. Entonces ha representado para el país poder incluir financieramente a todas estas personas que de verdad que si no existiera el Bitcoin nunca probablemente pudieran tener acceso a estos productos financieros.
So people already take and download any wallet and use whatever they'd like, right? The nice thing about Bitcoin is it has protocols that are agnostic to any specific company. That is one of the beauties of it. Think of any payment method that you've ever been able to use at a personal level. Sure, there's wire transfers, and those are agnostic of which bank you're using. Almost every bank can do a wire transfer. But think of anything that is consumer ready, consumer accessible, PayPal, Venmo, whatnot. All of those are very tied to a specific company, and they have a specific protocol, and they're not compatible between companies. Bitcoin, with its standard like on-chain or Lightning network kind of addresses and invoices, are standardized across different wallets, across different service providers, whether it's custodial or not. So the fact that the government had created one, sure, they're absolutely welcome to. Is it going to be the de facto that people use? Only if it's a good one. That's kind of freedom of choice. That's kind of the beauty of it. They're not locking people into this wallet. People can use whatever they want. They're just using it as a way to distribute funds to people. And in the end, it might simply be a way to distribute this $30 worth of Bitcoin that people and the citizens of El Salvador are able to receive. But after that, they might opt to use different tools, especially ones that are self-custody. And in having talked to a bunch of people, a lot of citizens that have come through our booth, they really actually get self-custody. They understand the value proposition of it. In the US, ironically, they're like, huh, why bother? Where when you've gone through banking crisis and not had access to banking systems, you realize that a technology that gives you the ability to be your own bank is pretty powerful, and so therefore, heck, go ahead and exercise that right. And a lot of people are coming off of Chivo and onto different solutions, whether it be Edge, Moon, or the many other options that are available to them. So freedom of choice. So I don't mind that they deployed Chivo. If it's a great product, people will use it. It is showing, a little bit of buckling, and that might be because it's one of the more widely used wallets, right? What other app can you say suddenly got millions of users on day one, right? And very few in the cryptocurrency world can say that they did that. If they can fix the problems, great. If they can't, there's many other choices.
It's a great idea. When I was here, you could see people have no access to banks, despite being banks, and banks also had said it. We had failed to bring financial services, and even the president, to the whole of the population. Most of the population are unbanked, and even worse than Mexico and many countries in Latin America. And also you have the poverty. And you see here things that going on that make no sense, like remittances being overcharged. They're already expensive, but 20, 30%. People that cannot take their money out because there are no banks around. They have to make a trip here to San Salvador, 1-2 hours just to get money out of an ATM or the teller. And you can see something that I saw, for example, in the weekends is people online, lots of people online just waiting for the bank to give them their money on cash. Now they can go to any Chivo ATM and do their remittances there and withdraw their money quickly without having to make any lines and have access. And the network that they're building is great. I mean, there is no other country that has a national network of ATMs for their population. And this is just the beginning. Now we're seeing many companies that are going to build on top of all the infrastructure and also help to build it up.
I think from a presidential level, it's really just moving it forward, like figuring out the next steps. Because now that we have Bitcoin as legal tender, we need to push towards that hyper-Bitcoinization, getting everyone to use a Lightning or Bitcoin wallet, and then also seeing what we can do next to further adoption, but also spreading it to more and more countries. I think El Salvador is just one part of the puzzle. It's the leader and it's the first one, but we need to go bigger.
Bueno, la verdad es que para nosotros ha representado una visión sostenible y del futuro. Creemos que el presidente está siendo visto a nivel internacional. El Salvador ahora ya está en el mapa de diferentes países bastante desarrollados y que nosotros queremos ser como ellos. La verdad es que nuestro país ahora pues tiene esta visión y no se va a quedar hasta acá, sigue implementando, ahora hay más atracción a los inversionistas. Creo que muchos de estos personajes y speakers que va a tener esta conferencia quizás no conocían de El Salvador y ahora conocen a El Salvador por la ley Bitcoin. Entonces para nosotros representa esa gran oportunidad que tenemos de ser visibles a nivel internacional y que la economía de nuestro país también representa un crecimiento.
Es bien importante desde mi punto de vista porque todos los países necesitan un presidente de que cada X años haga soluciones disruptivas. La mayoría de la gente lo piensa y lo repiensa y digamos, creo que hay una parte de una visión y la agresividad como para poderlo hacer. Digamos que es una decisión muy difícil, pero una decisión de que hay que saberla tomar, ¿verdad? Y entonces yo creo que el ponerlos a la vanguardia, creo que esto ha colocado a El Salvador en un punto de vista completamente diferente, que es una nación de vanguardia, que puede adoptar y la población está viendo de adoptar una cultura monetaria de vanguardia.
Of course, there's a blocking resistance because they lost their power of the decision. They are not any more decision makers in our country, but we have the people by our side, and we have a plan, and we have the will to change lives.
Bitcoin is hailed by some as the future of commerce, appearing in big TV ads and getting buy-in from average Joes around the globe. But the place where Bitcoin has seen perhaps the widest adoption is not a big city, but actually a sleepy beach town in El Salvador. So how did cryptocurrency take root in a small village best known to surfers?
In El Salvador, you know, it's a poor country. I mean, a quarter of the people in El Salvador make about $5.50 a day. What it does have is amazing surfs. It's always been a terrific place to surf, and El Horizonte is the little town that's now known as Bitcoin Beach because a bunch of surfers got together. One of them in particular, a guy named Mike Peterson, truly embraced Bitcoin and started showing what it could do.
We've been working on a number of economic development projects in El Horizonte, specifically trying to show the kids that they can dream and build a better future there. And we had somebody that wanted to help with this, and they challenged us to figure out a way to use Bitcoin. And I've been in the Bitcoin space for a while, so I was excited, kind of thinking through how we could do that. But I really underestimated how important that aspect would be, that when people start earning in Bitcoin, they start thinking longer term, they start questioning how they spend their money, and they start building for the future. And so I would love to say I had it all planned all along, but you know, as Bitcoin does, it kind of surprised us and showed us just how it changes the way people think.
Bueno, la Bitconf Blockchain for Humanity is one of the projects of Bitcoin Foundation, Ibero-American Bitcoin Foundation, which is the foundation that leads the Bitconf, and they won the Blockchain for Humanity Award in 2019. So we're happy about that also. But the project is very interesting, and the nicest part of the project is that it's not related to Bitcoin itself. Yes, Bitcoin is an accessory to a social project that they are doing, which has more to do with taking people outside, making people believe, small kids and people, yes, to grow as humans and to grow and to have opportunities and to get out of streets and stuff like that. No? So it's a social project called Hope House, and somehow today Bitcoin Beach went over the concept of Hope House, but Hope House is like 12 different projects related to helping people in their daily basis, yes? And Bitcoin is a tool for that.
Well, Jorge, me, Irving, we born in this town, Horizonte. Horizonte used to be a fisherman town, and when we were kids, our opportunities here were like almost nothing, you know? So, but there were some people that they moved to our community and they put some time in our life, and they teach us about life, they try to teach us English, they put us in contact with tourism. Horizonte always have been tourism, more surfers, you know, backpacker surfers that were traveling here before.
Originally came to El Horizonte just on a surf trip and really fell in love with the country, and I called my wife up and said, you got to come down here and we're going to buy a place here. So we came back down the next month and bought a place, and that was about 17 years ago. And every year we'd spend more and more time till about 8 years ago, this pretty much became home. And so that's kind of how this project started initially, was just a surf trip.
So that's when we have access to that, to the cultural change with tourism that were coming here, and those people were trying to teach us about life, our mindset started changing and we started having dreams. Everything started as a dream, that kids have more opportunities that we had here when we were kids. If the dream is that if our kids have knowledge tools here, they will not dream to leave our country looking for better opportunities. So that's how everything started, you know, like the dream to change our community. And Mike, Jorge, Irving, me, and now our team is more big. We all have the same dream, you know, to empowerment our kids here and give the knowledge and the tools here to dream.
So Bitcoin Beach started about 2 years ago as part of our community development here in El Horizonte. We were doing a number of youth projects trying to keep the youth out of the gangs. And we had somebody come along that offered to donate some Bitcoin to help the project. And I was already fascinated by Bitcoin and had been in the space for several years, and so I kind of jumped at the chance to include that in the projects and what we were doing. And so the donor had asked, what we would use this for, and he kind of challenged us to think of a way to not just cash it in and turn it into dollars, but to actually really use it in transactional ways. And so we came back to him with this kind of 3-year plan of how we'd start getting it into the hands of the individuals in the community, how we'd bring the stores on board, and how we would, eventually target Bitcoin tourism, and that would be what would make it sustainable, and then eventually to actually bring Bitcoin jobs into the region.
Well, for me, Bitcoin Beach is more of a symbol than anything. It's a symbol. Bitcoin Beach is not necessarily like a wealthy community. It's like a working class community that adopted Bitcoin, and by doing so, untap a lot of opportunities for them. So this is a great example of how Bitcoin can improve people's life. And it's not only for the more affluent or the rich ones, but for everybody that wants to get into the open world of Bitcoin. So that's it.
It's actually been a lot less hard than we initially had anticipated. I think when it does get hard is when you try to focus on adults or old people like me. Then they kind of struggle, but if you focus on the youth and then get them to train their parents, just like when I need something on my phone, I go to my kids and have them show me how to do it. We've learned that the same way with Bitcoin. So you start with the youth, and then they can teach their mom and their grandmother, and that's how it kind of spreads.
I really admire the leaders of the community of Bitcoin Beach. They did an amazing work with the community. It's not only Bitcoin, it's just that the community trusts on them, because they started doing entrepreneurship training, they started doing teaching English, they started doing a lot of sport training with the community. So the community believes in them, and when they have the opportunity to introduce Bitcoin as an opportunity of exchange and a store of value, the community trusts in them. So that's why all of this transformation happens in the region, because they already did in the past a lot of work, and when they have the opportunity to introduce Bitcoin, the community just go with them.
I think that the real crucial thing is that it needs to be that people need to see that Bitcoin is the tool. If just your agenda is to spread Bitcoin, people are going to see through that. But if you really want to have an impact on the community and you're willing to invest long term, then Bitcoin's going to be an amazing tool to integrate in those things and start allowing the youth to earn Bitcoin, start getting them to think about what is money, and for them to think about how they're going to continue in their education and build a better future. And so you really need people that are committed to the people, not just Bitcoin.
A couple months ago, if I had told you that some small country which has a few volcanoes in their backyard would be using all of that basically wasted energy to start mining some sort of internet magic money, you'll be laughing at my face.
Salvador has become the country to watch in the evolution of Bitcoin, first making it legal tender, now taking extraordinary steps to address mining's energy usage problem.
So for the first time, Kelly, El Salvador is officially using power harnessed from a volcano to mine for Bitcoin.
So I think volcano mining is a great start. Just the branding and the meme of volcano mining is just perfect. And I think the challenge now is getting the capital to expand it. So they have some thermal energy plants on top of volcanoes, but I think you need a lot more. And I think raising capital is one way to do that, to expand that energy production. It's also a benefit to the entire nation too. You can tap and harness that energy from the volcano for mining, but you can also do more things with it. You can power cities, towns, set up new industrial centers to do industrial production of textiles and materials. So I think it's just a doorway into prosperity through energy abundance. And for mining, if they're mining on a volcano and it's their power plant, it's the power provider utility, then it doesn't really matter what the cost is of power because it's their own power. So if they're prop mining, I don't really see an issue with growing that as their own prop mining operation. The challenge is really geothermal power is more expensive than hydropower. But perhaps over time that cost can be brought down. But that makes it challenging to bring in people as a hosting customer, because you won't be able to compete that much with hydro. But things will change, and Bitcoiners will invest, and we can possibly bring down the cost of geothermal. Yeah, so the big news was we raised our Series B. We're valued at 3.2 billion now. We acquired Spondyles, ASIC design company, and we're building our own ASICs at Blockstream. We're building the Blockstream Hornet. So we'll have our own miners hopefully, and perhaps one day those miners will be deployed to a volcano here in El Salvador.
I think a lot of governments will try to regulate Bitcoin, but it's going to be a very challenging thing to do because the nature of Bitcoin is it is unregulatable. It's just information, right? A lot of people think Bitcoin is money, but actually we think Bitcoin is money. Bitcoin itself is just information. So Bitcoin, in order to become the foundation of a global financial system, a new global financial system, has to have redundancy. So it cannot be reliant on just terrestrial internet. The idea behind Blockstream Satellite, first of all, it's cool. But secondary, it's also a needed technology. With Blockstream Satellite, we're broadcasting these blocks. So even if an undersea cable is cut for whatever reason, a country cannot be cut off from the network because they can still receive Bitcoin blocks over Blockstream Satellite.
And it was an amazing experience because I didn't know what to expect. The tour, we could see the generators, everything, how it works, the turbines spinning, and then at the end they had like a big container with mining rigs inside it. So it was quite exciting to see like actually happening, Almost 15% of the electricity consumed in El Salvador are produced via volcano energy. The gases that come out of the ground, and they somehow capture that pressure and spins the turbine, and electricity is generated. And to see those mining rigs at those facilities, it's quite amazing because Bitcoin, you don't have to mine Bitcoin like near the cities. It's geographically agnostic. I don't know if that's the right term, but it can be mined where the energy is cheaper and some otherwise will be wasted during the transmission process. So to have all those equipment turned on there and know that those rigs are a small part of the decentralization, the security, that's quite astonishing. I do some mining myself, but to see that in a larger scale always amazes me.
The heat of the sun, the strength of the wind, the might of running water, the power that lies deep beneath our land. These are the resources that were always here, but never used to their full potential. Now that we can harness the power of the elements, our country is generating more clean and renewable energy. We are driving an energy transformation that has allowed El Salvador, for the first time in our history and at the head of over 160 countries, to serve as the president of the Assembly of the International Renewable Energy Agency, IRENA. And now, in this field too, we are an example for the world.
During the entire Bitcoin week in El Salvador, we heard that the president was supposed to show up at some event, possibly La Bitconf, with some exciting news. But we had no idea what was about to come.
The diputados over here, they approved the Bitcoin law in the assembly. After that, we had some attacks of the opposition. Believe it or not, we have an opposition. And they started, complaining about Bitcoin, and they started with misinformation to the people, telling them Bitcoin was bad, and, you shouldn't use that currency because, it's invisible. You cannot see it. They burned the ATM and everything. I don't know the exact number, but I would think around 5 million Salvadorans have been orange-pilled right now. So it's very hard for them to find protesters. But they're free to do it. That's good also. Free country. They can protest. They can, burn ATMs. Fine. We demonstrated that Bitcoin could do a lot of good things. In that American Bitcoin conference, they sold some surfboards. Yeah. And they sold them $11,000, $7,000. And all that money was going to the children's hospital. But also, do you saw the pet hospital we're building? Our trust fund is made up of Bitcoin and dollars. So since the Bitcoin part is now worth more, so the US dollar part, we can spend something of it and build that. We start building it in the last days of October. And I asked, when are you finishing that thing? I said, 60 days, Mr. President. I said, yeah, that's fast. El Salvador is fast. So I thought, when Alexander the Great was conquering the world, they established these Alexandrias. And the whole point of the Alexandrias, they were very small pieces of land, if you would think cities at that time. But they established 20 Alexandrias all over the empire. And the idea was these Alexandrias not to cover the territory, which was immense, and the Alexandrias were actually very small. But the idea behind it was to these Alexandrias be like the beacons of hope for the rest of the world. That all of the world could be like that. Of course, Alexander the Great died and the empire divided, and you know the rest of the story. But that was the idea. So I thought, if you want Bitcoin to spread all over the world, we should build some Alexandrias, right? So I thought, well, we should build the first Alexandria here in El Salvador. So actually, what I was going to present to you, Bitcoin City. There you have El Salvador, you have the geothermal plant. Well, close to there. The Fonsecan Gulf. And it's going to include everything. Residential areas, commercial areas, services, museums, entertainment, bars, restaurants, airport, port, rail, everything devoted to Bitcoin. So at the beginning, we will power the city with the old volcano and power plant, but then we will build a new one right next to the city. And the volcano will power the whole city and will also power the mining. And in the middle, you will have a huge plaza, which would be from the air, you will look at it as a Bitcoin sign. So you have everything. Regulations, new economic policies, digital zones. The Fonsecan Gulf is shared by Honduras, Nicaragua, and El Salvador. So this will be in an international area. The government will provide the land, the public infrastructure, the economic areas will attract investors that will contribute to the development and construction of the city. And of course, Bitcoin City is committed to free and equal access to everything. We'll have digital and tech educations, and the social polycentric urban configuration, which has a small dent for the volcano there. That's the division. I will not bore you with those things, but you have social amenities, the residential, the green areas, and we're going to have industrial and office space, and also everything is going to be a digital environment. Everything has been taken into consideration: recreation, electricity, water treatment and waste management, etc. The volcano will, how it works. It powers the hot water steam that powers the turbine, that powers an energy generator, and then we have electricity, crypto mining, warehousing, tourism, entertainment, and culture and sports. Everything clean and coming from the volcano. But in Bitcoin City, of course, it's in El Salvador, so Bitcoin is the legal tender. That's nice. Not enough, probably nothing. but we'll have zero income tax, zero capital gains tax, zero property tax. I mean, if you're making a huge building, you don't want to pay property tax for that. Zero payroll tax. We want you to hire people, not to pay taxes for hiring people. Zero municipal taxes. And zero CO2 emissions. Because this is a fully ecological city that works and it's energized by a volcano. So that's Bitconf City, everybody. So you know that you will say, well, you know, that sounds nice, but who's going to pick up the trash? So the only tax that you're going to have in Bitcoin City is the value-added tax, which, you know, normal value-added tax, 10%. And that value-added tax will be used, half of it, to pay the bonds that we're going to issue to build up the city, so it's going to pay for itself. And the other half will be transferred to municipalities, so they clean up the trash, they keep the parks nice, and they keep the city all neat and clean. So that would be the only tax, the value-added tax, 10% value-added tax. So we talked with my friend Samson from Blockstream. Yeah, Samson here.
This is a very historic moment. We're going to be issuing Bitcoin bonds. Do you guys like Bitcoin bonds? And these bonds are amazing. The first one is going to be a $1 billion bond. And what makes it a Bitcoin bond is because it's backed by Bitcoin. So half of the $1 billion will go into buying Bitcoin. So the president is going to market buy $500 million of Bitcoin.
That also.
Yeah. The other half will go towards infrastructure, specifically building energy infrastructure and Bitcoin mining. So this is why it's going to be called the Volcano Bond. And this is going to be a series. So this first bond is called the EBB1, or El Salvador Bitcoin Bond 1. But there will be more. 35% year over year is conservative. But at the end of the 10 years, or in the 10th year of the bond, your APY will be 146%. So the coupon is 6.5% for the first 5 years, and then it starts getting a Bitcoin boost. And I think this product is going to be incredibly attractive, even from the traditional financial industry or bankers, because there's no instrument like this on the market. So this is going to make El Salvador the financial center of the world. It's the Singapore of Latin America, and if the US continues declining, all of North and South America. So I'll just repeat Jack Mallers. We are here to change the world. We're here in El Salvador to change the world. And we are ready to die on this hill. All of us are ready to die on this hill. Bitcoin is going to save the world, and it starts here in El Salvador.
So it's just not a good or cool, a nice idea. It's the evolution of humankind. So we're going there. And you can't stop evolution, but it's nicer if we are part of it. So it's nicer if we push it a little. For some reason, we're all here right now in Misata Beach, in El Salvador, looking into the future. Let's all be part of it. And let's all push the future even forward. Thank you, guys. Have fun. We love you, everybody.
Samson coming live from us from a volcano, because they're called volcano bonds to a certain extent, because it's going to be financing this Bitcoin city that's surrounding this area of a volcano. And I'm wondering why any institutional bond investor would buy this.
Well, why wouldn't they?
Because it's got a 6.5% yield, and your yield on your current bonds of El Salvador that come due in 10 years is 13%.
Yes, but this bond has a Bitcoin component, and that is why it is called a Bitcoin bond.
Of course, relations with the US and El Salvador from a government perspective, seem to be unraveling. They're hitting yet a further low at the moment. There are, of course, worries of relationships between El Salvador and the IMF. Does any of that matter to some of the investors that you're talking to?
No. I don't think a lot of these organizations like the IMF or World Bank are really relevant in a world based on Bitcoin. They're only relevant because they can print money, they can make the SDR, they can make money out of thin air. You can't do that on a Bitcoin standard. It really takes us back to, what money should be, which is just money, not a surveillance mechanism and not a tool to, enforce your beliefs and economic policies on another nation.
What are you doing with your life? The world's changing in a pace that we haven't seen it before. Technology is here, bring us information at light speed. We know it's happening. It's happening faster than anybody can possibly imagine. The biggest transformation and the question of what is value, what is a reserve currency, is changing. We're ditching the paper and we are laser eye focused in a cryptographic asset. And most important, they know. They know it's here, they know it's happening, and they are afraid. Join us. I'll see you next time.
And then one more area that I hope nation states start paying greater attention to is the rise of cryptocurrency. Because what looks like a very interesting and somewhat exotic effort to literally mine new coins in order to trade with them has the potential for undermining currencies, for undermining the role of the dollar as the reserve currency, for destabilizing nations, perhaps starting with small ones, but going much larger. So when we think about this new environment in which we find ourselves that we've been discussing for the last some minutes, we can't just think about nation states.
So for hundreds of years, governments and central banks have issued currency, and the currency is used for things to buy things, sell things, and so forth, and to price assets. Now some people have come along and invented various things called cryptocurrencies. Central banks are trying to adjust to what that means for them. So do you think that cryptocurrencies are a plus for the global economy, or is it too early to tell?
Cryptos are not currencies, full stop. Cryptos are highly speculative assets that claim their fame as currency, possibly, but they're not. They are not. I think we have to distinguish between cryptos that are those highly speculative, suspicious occasionally, and high intensity in terms of energy consumption assets, but they're not a currency. On the other hand, you have those stable coins that are beginning to proliferate, which some big techs are trying to promote and push along the way, which are a different animal and need to be regulated where there has to be oversight that corresponds to the business that they are actually conducting, irrespective of how they name themselves. And in all that, you have the central banks who are prompted by demand of customers to produce something that will make the central bank and central bank currencies fit for the century we're in, which is why we're now all looking at CBDC, central bank digital currencies, so that instead of having banknotes and cash in our pockets or in our wallet, we can have exactly the same thing, but in a digital form. So all of us are working on this, and certainly I was keen to push the CBDC issue on our agenda, because I believe that we have to stand ready for that.